We at DueDash bring together founders and experts from global startup ecosystem to educate startups and fundraising processes to help startups become investable, build business with focus, and receive funding. So, if you are an early stage startup or an investor looking for potential startups to invest, do join our community platform today, and we will be happy to onboard you. Okay, so the agenda of today's event is to have a meaningful and interactive discussion on growth and sales hacks in new normal. The discussion would be thought focused and on a wide range of subjects related to global startup ecosystem to foster learning and inspiration and provoke conversation that matter for the community building. So as we progress with the session, we will discuss about leadership, business growth, hacking, digital marketing, effective sales and business development techniques in new normal or the new world. And of course, we will hear from the experts about the future of business beyond 2020. That is the theme of the day. So let me tell you, the holistic view of conducting such session is to foster learning and inspiration in young entrepreneurs. And for that, we have four industry leaders and experts with us. First, I would like to introduce Professor Dilip Nandkiolier. He's the co-chancellor and Commonwealth University, mentor of change, expert in business strategy and marketing with over 4 decades of professional experience. He's actively involved in research, training, and consulting activities. Also, he has written several research papers and theses on marketing strategies and business planning. Welcome, Professor Nandkiolier. Happy and honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Next, we have Nayan Bhera, an innovator and entrepreneur, a serial technology leader, and a teacher of all things business. His company, Hashtag Ventures, helps companies on growth strategies and digital transformation. He has been awarded the Best Mentor by Shri Suresh Prabhu, Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, and felicitated by Honorable Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Shri Devendra Fadnavis, for his selfless services to startups in Maharashtra. Welcome, Nayan. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna.
Great. Then we have Amit Gupta, the quintessential businessman and expert deal maker with over 23 years of experience of multi-sector entrepreneurial and professional experience in sales and forming go-to-market strategies, strategic alliances, and thought leadership. Currently, he heads a business at Mergerdomo, an investing, banking, and deal sourcing marketplace, and is actively engaged in scaling ventures to new heights by constant involvement with all the players in the ecosystem. Welcome, Amit. We are thrilled to have you here as a panelist today.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, team DueDash.
Great. Now, our fourth panelist is Prakash Nimbalkar. He's a marketing and communication specialist with over 25 years of experience, ranging from sales, media, events, digital marketing, and spread across India and Middle East. He has been involved with various brands. He has built them and scaled the operations for Indian and Middle East. Welcome, Prakash. It's an absolute pleasure having you here with us.
Good afternoon and welcome to all.
I'm looking forward to a super interesting and insightful session with you all. So before we begin our panel discussion, I would request all the attendees to keep posting your questions into the chat box, and we will ensure that your questions are answered during the session. So let's move ahead. So first, I would like to invite Nayan Bhera to get his expert views on growth hacking. So Nayan, this has been a growth hacking month at DueDash. And we have conducted various events to educate our startup founders on growth hacks, and we have received a tremendous response from the entire ecosystem. So since you have been creating a new digital products and business models and revenue streams, we would like to know what kind of growth hacks or the techniques are you using in this new normal? We want you to spill the beans and share your expert insights. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. So, Vanna, I think I had 10 minutes to talk on growth hack, and I have a presentation. Can I share the screen and quickly?
Sure.
Since I understand there are quite a few startup founders, so I'll just quickly introduce what growth hack means, because there's a lot of misnomer about growth hack. So in 10 minutes of my talk time, I would just want to touch base on what growth hack really means.
Of course.
Yeah.
So let me just give the rights.
He can share. He can share already.
Okay.
Thank you. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Great, thank you. So I think this is a word which has really caught on for last few years, and there's a lot of misnomer about growth hack, and at times the lines get blurred about growth hack. So I think the very shortest thing we need to understand growth hack is a process or technique that is used to acquire users rapidly. And when I say acquire users, I'm talking about in the users in volume and masses, not in few numbers, but in terms of lakhs and millions. And that's what the whole process of growth hack means, or technique used for growth hack. And one of the, so let me just hide this. Yeah. So at a, in the Zoom, this keeps on coming over my screen. One second. All right. So it's all about most of the startups we all know, and since I am also dealing in startups, and so is DueDash, and we all know that one of the biggest challenge for the startups is cash crunch. It's managing the cash flows, especially at the early stage, it's always a challenge, and with limited resources of money that they have, and even the experience. Most of the founders are not experienced businessmen, or they're not. They don't have the other first startups or first uh, experience of business. So doing a marketing experience is also something which they lack. And that's where the growth hack comes in. The whole approach of growth hack is to use technology and use tools to market a product and acquire the users. So these are some of the classic examples of growth hack which you all know. Uber used growth hack to, they started giving free coupons to, so that I can pass to, as a user, I can pass to other of my friends. And that's how Uber became popular. Twitter gave initially few followers to start with. So the moment I create an account with Twitter, I already would have some followers. 30 was the number. They saw that 30 is the right number for user to get excited to start using Twitter, and that's what they started giving the followers. Gmail, again, a classic example where they used invitation route to acquire and create demand. In fact, demand creation was done through invitations. LinkedIn used our own email IDs to get connected with other people. Airbnb, Dropbox, again, another example where they use Rotex to acquire. In fact, Dropbox, earlier they were making losses, and they were spending roughly around $200 to $300, whereas their lifetime value for customer was just $99. And after using growth hack principles from 100,000 to 4 million in 1 year, that's the number of users they acquired by just giving a free space to the user and the people they were introduced to. Okay. So these are some of the things which there are classic examples how growth hacks has been used and people have acquired rapidly. Now, there are three key principles which is very important for people to understand how growth hack can be achieved and how in past companies have used these three principles to acquire users. One of the key ingredients is, at the heart of the growth hacking is the absolute focus on the growth as the only parameter that really matters. That conventionally products are market driven, but growth hack is all about product driven marketing. Growth hacking does not separate a product design or a product effectiveness from marketing. So you need to build the hacks, including user acquisition, onboarding, monetization, retention. All these are built into the product itself, and that's, I think, one of the key factors or three principles of growth hack. Second thing is social proof. Okay. Ensuring the virality becomes a core part of the strategy. The social proof is an important aspect of growth hack. You need to tell to your world out there that you're using a particular product, okay, and you're inviting others to use and become users of the product. And I think that's very core essential strategy which growth hackers use. Okay, and using unconventional channels uh, is something which growth hackers always look for. Uh, Compared to the conventional, a marketer would use conventional channels, but a hacker would want to see what new channels are available for them to reach out to consumers, and not only just reach out, acquire them as a part of their strategy. I think a classic case study here, which so Nestle, one of the products of Nestle is a baby powder for infants. Okay, and they wanted to reach out to as many mothers who were recently and of they were had a conventional channels like marketing communication like TV or the stores and distributors. What as a hack Nestle did was they engaged the transgenders, and we know in a country like India, transgenders they somehow they get the clue. They would know every home where a baby is born. Okay, so they engage their services and they ask them to give them use them to get a give them a gift hamper. So some samples of the infant baby powders were used distributed free to the homes where baby were born through the transgender. Okay, and that's I think uh, a key to using unconventional channels to growth hack. Now coming to your question about Vanda, you asked about what's happening in growth hack, and I think the future belongs to AI powered growth strategies, and of course that means the hacks also. Uh, we all know with using artificial intelligence, it gives us the patterns which are perhaps invisible or not known to human beings. Okay, uh, using AI, I can actually know how a consumer behaves and how I can acquire that consumer as a part of my customer, database. So that's where, like for example, if my office is in point A and every day my
Naya,
office is point E and every day I'm driving to point. Hello, yeah,
you were breaking for a second. Yeah.
hello. Oh, okay. Am I audible now?
Now it's better.
Hello? Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll stop sharing my screen. So I think maybe the bandwidth you know. I hope you hear me. So I was talking about AI powered growth strategies. Okay, something which is now becoming common with most of the marketers. Uh, we all know AI. With AI, we are able to discover patterns amongst people or among various database that people use. Okay, and using that patterns, we can actually target customers. For example, when Uber got introduced in the country, they were giving 50 rupees off or vouchers for every user. Now, one of the lacunas or one of the downside of the growth hack strategy is that you acquire users rapidly and you acquire them in large numbers, but then not necessarily that every user is going to be end up paying you. Okay, I mean you initially you give some freebies to the user and they'll all join, but not every user is a remunerative or profitable user. Okay, and you actually spend money on them, okay, for acquiring. So instead of that, if using AI, if I know what kind of user is going to actually be paying me, what is the need using artificial intelligence, and then I use my strategies, growth hack tools to reach out to users, and not only that, but actually even draft my message, my marketing communication based on the user. Okay, that's going to be something which is happening and is going to happen in the future. I think AI is going to play a huge role in the growth of every organization and their growth strategies.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And thank you, Nayan, for sharing such deeper insights on growth hacking. And there is a question from Abhishek. So he wants to know what tool will you will suggest the most to emerging founders or entrepreneurs for growth hack in this digital world.
So, Abhishek Kumar, see, first of all, I won't say there's one tool. There is no, one tool which can be. So you got to have your own first strategy built in. And as I told you, you got to have your growth hack tools or growth hack, modules built into your product. As I told you, it's a product-driven marketing. Your product should be able to give out vouchers. Your product should be able to allow users to share and have the social proof. Your product should be able to retain the customer. So everything is built into your product. Instead of using a third-party tool, I would rather suggest you build your tool when you're building your solution. solution, whatever solution I'm building, bring in the growth principles in itself. Okay, let the product reach out to people. Let a product create more customers. And I think one of the factors of growth that is leveraging on users database. So if you can, let's say if you're building an app, and if your app can read users' phone book, or your app can read their email IDs, like what LinkedIn did or what Gmail does now, okay, and reach out to their users. In fact, I've seen users also reaching out to trade associations, that where there's a volume of a particular segment, especially in B2B kind of businesses. So instead of using third-party tools, I would suggest build your own tools, okay, and use it whenever possible.
Absolutely, that's correct.
You can for different messaging, and you can using NLP, which is a part of AI. You can actually message put the tagline or the message or to me it could be one thing, and to maybe to Vanda it could be another thing, and to you it could be third. So depending on which word appeals to you, okay, and that could be used using AI. The AI can find out that what is the words, what is the one sentence which I would respond to more, and then what would you be, and then accordingly the messages on the fly is drafted and sent to you.
Absolutely. Understanding your business needs and requirements, then developing your own product. That would help a lot in the long way. So there is another question from Sagar. He wants to know what will be the best way of growth for a new startup of hot beverages in UK or Europe?
Okay, now that's I think I would rather ask Michael to answer the question, but he will be in better position to answer the question. Europe and UK is something which is I may not be able to answer that question.
Got it. No problem.
Michael?
I'm just in the background, like you're in the spot, but maybe some of your other speakers today, Prakash, Amit, Dr. Dilip, might want to answer on that.
Right.
I think so. I can take that question. Sagar, apart from the market, I mean, there are certain basics that one can replicate in any market. I don't know why you would start that business in UK, Europe, if you're based in India. It's always better to test it out in a localized environment close to you, especially now, given the COVID scenario, the marketing and GTM expenses would be lesser. Now, this question of getting into products, of course, involves a lot of, details into product-based marketing, as Nayan rightly was pointing out, But to answer very briefly in one line, there are certain basics in terms of doing your market research, identifying your target market, and so on and so forth, which are quite independent of geography. And to answer again on specifics, it involves the whole product research.
Right. Thank you, Amit, for sharing your insights and your expert views on it. Now, there is a question from Shubham. He wants to know what will be the best way for growth in agrotech. So it's industry specific. So I want to ask this question from Nayan.
Sorry, where is the question? I can't see it. What is the best way for growth in agrotech? Okay. So agrotech is a very growing field, yeah. And in fact, in a country like India, where, all these years, we all know farmers have not been much of an educated lot, and they have been doing the agriculture in a very, very conventional manner. Adopting technology, now, a lot of data which is available for agrotech, and combining the tech and the data both, I mean, of course, and coming up with different agrotech-based solutions or agrotech, it's definitely useful. I mean, I can give you a very generic answer, because right now your question is very generic. If you can talk to me separately and give me an exact specific what kind of, but I see a lot of growth in agrotech, because technology definitely has got a lot of role to play, and data, which is fragmented. If somehow you can organize the data, use your growth tech tools, and come up with some kind of solutions for agrotech, I say huge scope in agrotech.
Got it. Great, Nayan. Thank you for sharing your deeper insights. And I completely agree with your talks. Growth hacking is Oh, it's key to business success. Fantastic. So now I would like to invite our second panelist, Prakash Nimbalkar, to get his expert views on the importance of digital marketing in this new digital era. So Prakash, can we have you here? Yeah. So, Prakash, since you have been a part of corporate world for about 2 decades, and you are an expert in marketing, branding, and communication, so how important is it to create a brand image on various social media channels? And why do you think that is most, important first step before kicking off any marketing activity?
Okay. The
Over to you.
digital market is something which has taken the whole branding and brand building as well as visibility to a different dimension itself. Traditionally, if you look at B2B or B2C, we've been using older ways of typical newspaper or some kind of journals or exhibition, but then things have changed. Today. There's an old saying that say in Hindi it says जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. No, that's old thing which is coined by Dr. Jagdish Kapoor, who was one of the pioneers of marketing. We worked with Fruity and other thing. That's his famous saying. He says visibility is very important. Now you have a better option to visibility, which is beyond just the traditional print and television. You got social media which is coming in. You have digital thing. It's very very pertinent, as you have a lot of ways to encompass your visibility. You can cover it in a much wider spectrum. Today, earlier days what happened is that it was limited to those who read newspaper or switch on the DueDash, other thing. Today, the brand building can be done right from your mobile phone. With WhatsApp, the brands have been engaged on WhatsApp, Instagram, on even on your LinkedIn, your Facebook. There are a lot of social media. In fact, if you look at it, the last couple of data says that the new Facebook account openers, the age is 50 plus. Though that's age group 50 plus are the maximum number of Facebook account opening. The age group. So that means the Facebook, although it has become less of popular with the younger generation and mid-age people, but then they have moved to Instagram and Pinterest and other thing. But then the age group which is now latching on to Facebook is beyond 50 itself. So there are a lot of avenues and there are a lot of products or there are a lot of brands which need to be made available, and need to create the awareness into these age group, right? It we from 10-year-old to going up to 70. And look at what has happened today. Just 2 years back, there are so many of us didn't know what is Zoom. There are so many of we didn't know what are some of the apps which are there. Today, look at it. We went through a pandemic, and then here we are. A 10-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid today knows how to switch on the laptop and get onto the Zoom, because today morning there's a class for that. So that's what technology has done. Technology is no longer is become limited to a particular age group, a particular section. It's there everywhere. I know people who are 75 plus, but they also started using Zoom and WhatsApp video chat with the children who are living in different countries. That's become possible. So in this age, in this era of technology which is available on our hands, it becomes much more important, much more relevant for us to create brand, nurture it in all possible ways. And what best option is than the digital marketing? Why? Because the cost in creating, building and nurturing and scaling up a brand, building a brand on digital is very well limited. What's the cost that you have? You need an infrastructure which is possible with your internet and a good internet and good storage and the app that you have, or you can use the social media options which are there. But only thing is what we need is a person's dedicated time, some kind of extent to the creativity that is available should be available. Put in your thoughts and put in the pictures, some of them, and in content which should be engaging. The content has to be engaging, especially on social media, because that is when you bind people to your brand and get them into some kind of activity. You can have some kind of games going on, some kind of Q&A. You can give them some tips. that is how the whole thing has been built. Reminder can be done, and then you can today, you don't need to reach out to people to hand over to them the gift coupon that you have. Look at what Ola and Uber, as Nayan was also talking about Uber. Even I take the case of Ola and Swiggy here, when they were giving so many coupons. Today, it's just a matter of time. I use Big Basket daily to order some of the my regular groceries at home. And every week I get some 50 rupees coupon, 100 rupees coupon. So these are possible. This is where you get engaged. This is where you bring in that kind of an involvement from the consumer to get involved with your app or your the platform that you're offering. I get 100 rupees coupon every day. I buy milk and we buy certain things from Big Basket because we have that the BB daily, the value system that we have. But then on Monday morning I see there's 100 or 200 rupees coupon available. Then they say, okay, let's add on this and let's buy this, and we have this. So that is where I'm increasing my spending there. That's the involvement of a brand. And certain times what happened, brands also get into saying that let's come with and create a contest, take a picture with our brand and post it. That's when one more thing happen. Then you have certain time they send you a link for taking your feedback. It's become so much easier for brands to go out to reach to the consumer in the shortest route possible. And then you have the option of getting into selected media. So digital marketing can provide you a small window with which you can select what audience. Look at a scenario where earlier brands used to use DueDash or a regular TV channel or Z or any other channel with a newspaper, but they don't know how many of them are looking at that brand, how many of them are getting exposed to the brand, and there's so much of that is wasted. But today, an Instagram or a Facebook or any other social media option gives you that audience where you can select. And I want a student community which is from 15 till 25, those who are doing degree or those who are doing PG. I'm sure sir is also here, Dilip sir is here. you'll be able to, we can target. If you have a product only for the student community who are between 15 to 22, 24, we can come out and check with the social medias and tell them that I want all your database from, let's say, talk about Bangalore, Delhi, Pune, or Bombay, in that segment, in that city. I want to target them. So that's possible. You can tailor-made certainly. You can come out with another creative for housewife section. You can come out with another creative for those who are looking at investment. You can come out with another creative who are only for health and fitness, gym. Those who are into gym or health and fitness, you can come out with that. You can come out with some kind of creativity, some kind of a creative engagement, some kind of ads that you can create, okay, or brand building exercise that can be done. Communication can be done only for select audience. That's possible again with social media, which gives you so much of possibility. The next thing is that after you reach out to them, it is also possible to track. Then we reached out to 200, 300, or 500 number. How many of them got engaged? How many of them didn't even get involved with that? How many of them got actually exposed to that? You can do that with email marketing. That's again possible with that. You send an email and you use a software which tracks you, and then you have that possibility of checking what's happened. And all this, you can build the traffic to come to your website, where you can get your website connected to Google Analytica and then see what kind of behavior, what has happened, who went to which page, how much time they spent on my website, which information they were looking at, what were they doing on that. All that is possible. So with this whole gamut, which is available on your fingertips, you just need an infrastructure and person with some kind of creativity to build brand. It's become much more necessary. A lot of B2B brands are coming to. I see companies like Grundfos, I see companies like Logrand, those kind of companies, getting into these kind of activities where they are building brand on social media and using digital thing. Email marketing has been there for the last 5-7 years, but then it has taken a different dimension altogether. And with the pandemic, that was the only option available, because newspapers stopped coming to us for almost 15-20 days or a month, and all the TV channels were repetitive. And that's why we all moved to OTT channels, with Netflix and Amazon Prime. And then that is what was left. Social media was the only thing left for brands to remain in touch with their present and potential customers. So that's how I look at it,
Great, great. Thank you, Prakash, for sharing such great insights on digital marketing. So, since you have mentioned social media, it plays a vital role in influencing your customers' buying decision. So, what are your opinion on doing effective campaign on social media platforms so that
It is.
it
There
has
are a
more
lot of
impact?
brands which are doing is yes. Yeah, it is always, and that cost is so low. It gives you so many options, and you can select the pin. You can pinpoint and select the audience. Number one, you can do a plan A, plan B, which is you can try out one thing and it doesn't work. You can switch over to something else, which was not available in the traditional way of marketing. It used to be costly. There have been times when you shoot one ad and then release it on the television channel, and then you come to know within a week that it was not.
Okay.
It's not much appreciated, and then the withdrawal of that ad is so costly because so much has gone into production, so much have gone into buying the TV ad space. It's costly, whereas on digital media it's much more easier for you to switch over between plan A, plan B. That's possible. Number three is the tracking and the success of the failure measurement is much more possible, much more easier on social media. And then you can come out with alternate, and then you can have specific campaigns made for specific audience or specific brands, specific products, specific reason. Today, look at it. Immediately something happens across the globe. You have one half a day power shutdown in Mumbai, which happened around 2-3 weeks back. There are a lot of memes that came in. A lot of brands joined into that bandwagon. And then you have something going on, farmers burning the stubble there in Punjab. Again, there were some memes happening. So small issue which is there. The brands have been able to engage on that topic. They latched onto the topic and then create some kind of a story around it, so that get people to register their brand. So it's much more easier to get active on social media, to remain there. What requires is that your willingness to adopt that, your willingness and take ability to latch on to what's available.
Right. Right, got the idea. So, Prakash, there is a question from Tarun Srivastava. He's asking if there are any specific campaigns for FMCG versus other segments. And if yes, then can you throw some light from your experience?
See, FMCG, I will say I've seen some of the Kit Kat campaigns which have been there. They've been there all over there. They created memes. They used a lot of occasion. What happened is that there have been occasion, like I gave example of the Mumbai the power shutdown, which power cut which happened in Mumbai a couple of weeks back. Then you have this recently, last 2 weeks back. There was 2 days back. There was this this cyclone which came in near Chennai. So a lot of brands use that, more so with FMCG. They latched on to that. In fact, brands didn't even leave the marriage of Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma. There are a lot of memes were created. There are a lot of stories and small snippets were created between during that time. I don't want, some of them are pretty nasty for that matter. They didn't leave these newly married couples alone. Went into that. Durex is one which is being all over there. They always latch on to these events, and pretty good quality creatives that they come out with. Or this your Zomato comes in pretty often. Those are the brand which use FMCG. Also, Nestle is one which is there. Sometimes I've even seen ITC. They do a lot of campaigns. So it depends on how you look at it, what's the product and how you're positioning the product, and whether a particular scenario or a situation gives you that kind of creative freedom to connect to your brand. That is when you need to look. There are a lot of B2B also which comes in, but then B2C has been much more aggressive, much more adaptive to the social media and the digital marketing which are available.
So may I just add a little to this?
Sure.
Tarun, one of the oldest things that you may have noticed even before digital was born was the Amul ads.
Yes.
They were always topical. And if you went to Mumbai, there was a restaurant called Talk of the Town. All that they advertised was a banner which was very topical and which was humorous. And it was always connecting. Now, this is what has started coming into the digital media, and now the force is more, the velocity is more, and you have the freedom to change over and over again, keeping your the brand theme or the brand personality the same. Am I right, Mr. Nimbalkar?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, in Bangalore, not now, I'm talking about 10 years back when I used to be on road. My work used to take me on road. There is a particular hoarding in Bangalore city which always on a weekly basis used to bring in and place that Amul ad there. So I used to make sure that between Monday and Wednesday, I take that route just out of curiosity. Aaj kya naya lagaya wahan pe? What is this for this week? So every third day, I used to make sure that I cross that road just to look at that, what is that, appreciate. Everybody know what is Amul ads are, but just to appreciate the creativity there and just to enjoy that particular hoarding which is there. That became a part of me, in my day-to-day affair. That's how the brands get to your skin and they become part of your daily life. Yeah, I think Nayan wants to
I want to make a comment.
Brands, it's very important.
So I just want to make a quick comment. In India, and maybe I do not know what the other part of the world, but in India specifically, I've seen FMCG companies, be it HUL, P&G, Nestle, Colgate, or all such big companies, they have still not really used the power of digital marketing or social media for that matter at all. They are still relying largely on a conventional channel. And I think one of the major reasons is that most of these decisions are taken by the employees who are working at a senior position, and they rely on the agency. And agency will rely on their software and the TRPs and all those. They need a measurement. Okay, and only based on that. So that's why they're still focused on TV ads or on a newspaper ads, whatever. I think largely on TV. They have not yet, I think I would say they have failed to engage a customer. Nestle does not know whether I'm eating Amul chocolate or no, or what is it that I'm liking in Amul chocolate, and why I'm buying Amul chocolate and why I'm not buying Nestle. Okay, so I mean at that level they're still not reached out. Even the social media is using like a mass media. They're just posting. There's no engagement, and I think we all know that for brand building, awareness, engagement, and involvement. These are three largely steps. I think their awareness is there. I don't think they are. That's why they're stopping. There's engagement is missing out, and involvement definitely they're missing out through digital medium.
It's there. It's an untapped potential. It's not being harnessed fully well. But then slowly we are getting into that, but it's very slow compared to other countries. I think it's very slow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now here we have a question from Sahaj. So he's asking, what is the reason for Apple to come to social media and interact with the audience there, provided this is the first time Apple tweet? Also, the number of events have increased, and in their events, they are now comparing their phones and laptops to the competition. Whereas in the past, they have only used to compare. They only used to compare with with people's precious models. So what could be the reason of that?
I think they've come to a level where they think that they've established a brand. They've reached a level where people are aware of that. People are aware there's a brand first top of mind recall. They have reached that level, but then there's somewhere they think that there is a section of people who we call it as a fence sitter. Those who are sitting, they have the capability or they want to buy an Apple product, let it be a mobile phone or a tab. But then they're not here jump to that bandwagon of buying it because they still haven't got the understood the full value the product offers to them, because they find that price is still too high. And that is where you get into the comparing, because you have a section of people who are there standing in the queue before the launch of any new brand at 3 a.m. in the night in Europe or US. That's one section of that. And there's one section who are loyal, who every 2 years they keep phasing off their mobile on tap as and when the new brand comes in. That's another section. But there is one more section who are at the fence sitter. If they are convinced for the value with comparison or for the other technical tech specs which is given, they can be brought into the league of buying an Apple product. So this is where they are targeting. That section they are targeting. They saying, okay, let's go to that section whom we are with conversion mode. We call it as they are there to reach out to the audience whom they would like to convert them from a non-iPhone or non-Apple product to an Apple product. That is where they are talking about this comparison and using these tactics which are there.
May I add to this?
Yeah.
May I add to this? See, marketing has two sides. I'm borrowing a little from Nayan as well. Marketing has two sides. One is, of course, catering to what Prakash just said. The other one is developing insights. Often, customer is not able to express himself, and therefore these comparisons sometimes throws back certain insights, because Apple is a company known for mainly for working on the insights, and that kind of analytics, like Nayan said, using AI, you never know what will I-13 be like, so that is marketing, where neuro marketing or AI based marketing, where they need data to do this. So I think this comparison is not really only to deliver what is the the apparent value right now, but the latent value, that steady study is going to be done. Am I right, Nayan? I mean, I don't know if you'll agree with me on that.
I think Apple is a different classic case. So Apple, I tell you what, it's a clear-cut difference of mindset between Steve Jobs, who is no more there, and Tim Cook. Steve Jobs wanted to build a cult, okay, and he wanted lesser number of users, but exclusive club of Apple users, okay, and he never wanted to go mass. Post iPhone launch, and as the product became more popular, and post iPod, okay, things changed for Apple. Suddenly, a product became popular. Otherwise, Apple was always an expensive product, only for elite class, only for rich class. I think iPhone changed their strategy a lot, and that's where Apple realized that, oh, now we can go mass. Our product is being accepted, and people are willing to pay premium for a product, and there is definitely a big ocean out there in the market for us to tap into. And that's where I think Tim Cook is now changing the strategy, or the overall Apple think tank is changing the strategy to now use all conventional medium to reach out to consumer. And now that we are reaching out to masses, of course they'll have to end up comparing themselves to the nearest rival, which is Microsoft, especially in OS space, and so they have to do it. They can't stop it. Okay, so I think that's a shift in the mindset from the era of Steve Jobs to Tim Cook.
Oh, that's one way of looking at it, but I still think it is looking at the insights is what they are doing.
Of course, then yeah, agreed.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you, to share for sharing your insights and your expert inputs on digital marketing. And I think I'm sure our attendees could derive a great value out of the things discussed here just now, and make their marketing efforts more effective and efficient. Now, I would like to move ahead with our third topic, new sales and business development techniques. And for that, we have a corporate leader with us, our third panelist, Amit Gupta.
Hi.
So Amit, you are an expert in deal making, and you have scaled up many ventures in the past and are continuing to do it. So what, according to you, are the best business practices and processes involved in taking your business to the next level? And what will be these practices beyond 2020? So over to you.
Right. Thank you, Vandana. So while I do agree with Nayan and Prakash, they harped upon digital marketing, growth hacking, but the issue that I feel now is that we are undergoing a paradigm shift because of the pandemic. While all those tools have been prevalent over the last 5-7 years, how they can be utilized now is the key metric on which businesses can survive and can be sustainable. So I wouldn't harp too much into specifics, but go down into the basics. When I say going down to the basics, it's never a bad idea to look at the traditional approaches of brick and mortar businesses, which they have been deploying over decades, right? Number one, conserve your cash. this pandemic, even if we were to assume it would magically disappear, which it would not. So the next 18 to 24 months, I believe, are going to be very critical in terms of just being sustainable. I'm not using the word survival because a lot of businesses have already perished, uh, especially the new age businesses which thrived upon investor money over the last, few, let's say last 5-7 years. If we talk about the Indian venture capitalist ecosystem, uh, we've had big brands like a Paytm, Ola, and so forth. So it's very easy for new age founders to get into that mentality that if I start a new business, investors are just going to come in, pump money, and that is why I need to spend money to acquire my users. Yes, I mean, that is a good strategy, but how many Olas, how many Big Baskets, or now Baijus do we have? It's like barely, I mean, I don't have the exact statistic, but most would agree maybe 0.5 or 1%. So, I mean, that is why I'm going to talk about just getting into those basics. Once you get those basics right, going forward, at least for the next 6 months minimum, you could be on the road to, a rapid growth strategy. How do we do that? When I say conserve cash, there are many ways. I mean, digital marketing is absolute priority. There are so many tools available where you identify your target market. It's very easy to get lost when you identify your target market. For example, some product you would say, oh, 500 million users into $1 a user, and so forth. But at this point, with all the digital tools available, it is so important to identify a serviceable market. Maybe it could be a very limited market in terms of geography, in terms of the user base, which can be further segregated by age groups, by interest, and so forth. And uh, again, coming back to the points that Prakash and Nayan made, so many channels available. My belief is that one, especially starting up founder, right? I mean, or even an early growth one, should identify only one or two channels where he could, uh, you know, expend all his energies and efforts, which includes the monetary resources also available. Because as part of what I do from the past decade or so, and now on a daily basis, I interact with maybe, 5 to 7 startups on a daily basis, where we try to understand what are their pain points and how can we help them in both their organic and inorganic growth journeys. So one statement also always comes out from the discussions that we have is, how can I get funded? So the next question is, why do you need funding? Well, I need funding to market my product, market my brand. Sometimes most of them have not even identified where are they going to be spending this. So, I mean, I would suggest, please identify your base, narrow it down to as minimum a number as you can, right? And then identify the channel. Especially in the times of pandemic, some channels which were traditional print media may not be viable, and one should not even look at them. One might think giving a full page, half page advertisement in an economic times will get you eyeballs, but will you have a ROI instantly is the question now, right? Maybe if we were talking 1 year prior to the times that we live in, of course that was a good strategy. Number two, I would say another good area in terms of maximizing your reach with a limited budget would be partnership and collaborations. Now, especially it is pertinent and relevant where you look at collaborating with players rather than looking at every player as in your industry as competition. Why not partner with them, tap into their user base, and somehow create co-campaigns, for the lack of a better word. When I say co-campaigns, if you've identified a partner, create a campaign which is specific to their user base, and then reverse pull those users. I mean, it's hard to define it in one or two statements, but I think that's a very effective strategy that I have deployed, especially in the last 5 to 7 years, and it's become even more pertinent now. Number 3, I would say, is identify your anchor, or as I like to use the term, big fish customers, right? Once you have done that, you create a network effect. To give an example into a B2B business, for example, if you have to tap into a large corporate, I don't think you should be scared to do that. Reason being, once you do that, you will have to spend less effort, which again involves monetary expenditure, into creating the next set of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 customers. So identifying that big fish and reaching out to them should be also a priority at this stage. And what I've also observed is a lot of large corporates at this particular time, they are restricted by their conventional ways of working. It's not so easy for them to get innovative. So they are very receptive to the idea of new startups coming to them, showing them the ideas, and then taking it forward. A large corporate, a large MNC will obviously have the resources built up over decades or years compared to a startup. So it's important to, tap into that ecosystem. Never have this thought. See, I mean, I am a self-taught sales marketeer from the last 23 odd years, having worked in several geographies. So my basic fundamental is never be afraid to tap into those big customers, even when you are starting day one. Once you've built a decent enough product, or it's a tech-based platform, please go ahead, reach out to those people, and you would be surprised how receptive the CEO of a large MNC is compared to a smaller customer, right? Another point I would say is, at least for the next 6 to 9 months again, try not to get into too much of fancy PR, bells and whistles, as we like to call it, right? One has to build up their user base by word of mouth. Now, how does the word of mouth come? Word of mouth will come if you are adding value to that particular customer, via your product solving some pain point that they have. This is an oft asked question. I cannot identify the pain point of my customer. Okay, fair enough. Maybe you are already entering a crowded market, whatever industry, whatever sector it is. The pie, especially in emerging economies like India, China, the pie is so large. Even if you tap into 5% of that pie of your industry, there's so much to have, right? So build your organic user base. I mean, this is the 4th time I'm saying that, especially pertinent and relevant in today's times. Now these are company specific, some tools that I deploy on a daily basis over the years. I'll just harp upon some basic selling tools for a salesman, right? Although, it is my belief the CEO is the biggest salesman of a company, right? At any given point. If a CEO is not wearing the hat of a salesman, I don't think he's doing justice to his title. So again, research your customer profile, right? When I say research your customer profile, it means understand that need of the customer before you even start to pitch to him, right? It is so important, rather than having a blanket approach, which a lot of companies, let's say, in the BPO sector or the call center sector have. They are given a target of reaching maybe 100 customers, making phone calls to them. Maybe 5 respond. That's a very healthy rate for them. But the times that we are living in requires a more research-based approach to selling. That's my belief. Once you have identified the need, a typical salesman, whoever it might be, the leadership C-suite team or the lower rung teams. The lower rung teams would only do what the leadership, does by example. One should be, in the current times you should be dynamic enough to change your solution. You see, a startup usually has to be iterating their product or their vision every month, and there is no harm in doing that. So if you have identified that maybe your timing is not right for the solution that you're providing or the product, you should be dynamic enough to change it, rather than saying that, okay, let me try this strategy for the next 3 months, 6 months, then I'm going to go back to it. No, if you get enough feedback, I mean, taking a point from what Professor Dilip said, customer insights. I mean, I wasn't able to give my comments on the whole Apple story. Apple is an aspirational brand. They have always been that, right from Steve Jobs to even what Tim Cook does now. They have created that wow factor. If you look at their ads on television or print media, there is nothing more than the iPhone. They don't get into the functionalities of the product. They create that factor that you have to own it, or you have this thing called FOMO, which the new generation is quite familiar with, the fear of missing out. So, but it's very tempting to fall into that trap of having the FOMO, especially when you're starting up early, right? Leaving apart that point, which we can come to later also, I would say, be persistently persuasive with your customer audience, especially when you're running a B2B, business, be it a marketplace, be it a traditional brick and mortar kind of a system. You have to be persuasive. There is a very thin line between being persuasive or incessant, which means forceful. So if a customer has not responded to your pitch on the first attempt, second attempt, doesn't mean he's not interested in your service. You have to again go back to point one, where you identify the need of that particular customer. And, so I would say an individual salesman also always has to develop and nurture a peripheral memory, right? What is happening around you? Like Prakash had this point, why are brands like Amul successful? I mean, I am talking about individual approach, but that is what it boils down to. Amul gets into the pulse of the current times. I mean, they always have their finger on the pulse, right? What is happening around society? Basically, businesses which have managed to scale up or become brands have only become so as they could tap into the emotions of a customer, if I were to say that, right? How do they do that? Because they have their finger on the pulse at that particular point. So I think this covers a lot of things which are very pertinent, relevant. Again, I'm not going to go into details of growth hacking or digital marketing. I would like new age entrepreneurs, early growth people to just stick to the basics for a while, right? Let this thing die down, ensure that you are sustainable enough. Once this thing dies down, let's say maybe by 2022, which is also an optimistic scenario, then you could, just supercharge your efforts everywhere. But now is the time to conserve as much as energy, resources as possible, and build a sustainable business. Now, if I come back to, we had a question from Manoj in terms of, what are the investors thinking about at the moment? What are the, where is the funding coming in? Where is the funding going in? So again, it's very tempting for a new age founder to get, absorbed in this whole conundrum of, I will get my millions. No, it is not easy. Let me be very blunt about it. It is not easy. You will get 100, maybe 500 no's till you get that yes. Do not assume that a venture capitalist or even a savvy angel investor is going to simply put in money because you think you have built a good idea. On the other side, there has been this whole thing about GMVs over the last 5-7 years, especially people who are building marketplaces. They would get into this that, oh, my gross market value is into X millions. Third point would be, I have built a user base of X thousand people. Now, do you ask them, what is the revenue? What was the cost of acquisition? And lastly, what was the ROI? Many founders don't have answers to these questions, right? I mean, I can go into these metrics in detail, which I would not. These are again very basic points that you have to adhere to in the current times.
Bye, guys.
I think, Vandana, that's it from my end without going into much further detail.
Thank you very much, Amit, for sharing such valuable and thoughtful insights to our panel discussion today. So I think there is a question from Sahaj, since you have already answered his earlier two questions. He's asking, do you believe in doing the things first or doing the things best? So, I mean, he means, do you believe in...
Sahaj, I understand your point of view. And again, there is a very thin line between first and best. How do you define that? My answer would be, what does your audience need? What does your target customer base need? It is not what you think is the best or the first thing to do. Again, coming back to the current times that we are in and we are going to be in for the next 18, 24 months, do not try to reinvent the wheel. It's not a time to reinvent that wheel or give up, give a customer what you think is a very novel or a best solution, right? Understand his need, and everything will be dependent on that. As for a first mover advantage and the last mover, again, there is no straight yes or no to that, right? You have to be aware of your competition. Some people say, oh, I don't have competition. I think they're absolutely wrong. Everybody will always have competition, because the times that we live in, to copy or replicate an idea is negligible, right? I mean, we've had examples of, I'm not going to name it, everybody would know, a large telecom traditional business player in India, which copied the platform that we are all in right now and speaking on barely in 24 hours, right? They could do that because they had a ready market of whatever the number is, 500, 700 million users, right? They could do that because they had the resources to do that. They had the wherewithal to tackle any potential conflicts which arrive there. So I took this analogy to answer your first mover and last mover. First mover is Zoom, on which we are all in. Yet this large corporate came in because they had an existing user base, which they could just plug and play, right? So there's no hard and fast rule or answer to that, Sahaj. I hope I answered. I mean, you can always get back to me one-on-one if you need more specifics.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Amit. Now, I would like to invite our fourth panelist, Professor Nand Kiolier, to shed some light on future of business beyond 2020. So,
Okay.
Yeah, over to you.
First, thank you, Vandana, and
it's a pleasure.
Thank you for all of you to be here listening to me. I would like to share my screen if it's possible.
Of course.
Now, 1 second.
While that's happening, let me tell you first, I'll pick up from these three experts.
Yeah, should work now.
Okay. I'll pick up from these three experts.
Nobody is an expert, sir. In front of you, we are nobody.
No. That is not the way to look at it, because the profession in which I am today, I keep learning all the time. Okay, to pick up from these experts, there is a lot of technology, there is a lot of things happening. But I will root for what Amit just said. Sometimes you have to sit back and think how you're going to use it. I mean, the techniques are there, they are amazing, and they're exciting as well. And the age group, I think I'm addressing a very youthful target audience here. It is very easy to get enthusiastic about things. So I will start from there. The second one is a question asked by one Deval Agnihotri, where he said, is there some new way of breaking the mold? Well, this DueDash is all about that, really. I mean, the moment you can sense a pain point, you are going to, and if you find a solution, there will be a breaking of the mold. That's the difference between an entrepreneur versus a normal businessman. A normal businessman is a copycat. Okay, I think DueDash is about doing that, looking at something, and I don't know from which educational background, but there is this triangle, okay, which says that basic needs, then your desire keeps on, the human desire keeps on growing. This is done by a person called Maslow. Some of you might like to search the net because there isn't much time here, but that is what happens. So if you get something, then you start desiring for more. And that's where the breaking of the mold happens. Anyway, so these are not what I really wanted to speak on. I'm trying to tell you what, how do I get this? Hold on.
Does it work or?
No, it doesn't seem to be working.
Let me change something. Let's see if it works now.
No, I don't know.
Good. So what do you have like a technical, does it say you cannot share or what is happening?
Can you all see? I am sharing my screen.
No.
Yeah, it's there.
No, not visible.
Not here. Ah,
Now?
okay, it's loading, it's loading.
Okay, so I am getting into something which I think is going to be what is going to be the future now. Okay, a lot of us have lost our jobs, and things like that have happened, and there is a lot of worry. Okay, how do we go it? The answer really is not looking for a job anymore. Okay. Fortunately, our government also, I'm not trying to support or advocate anything like that, but fortunately, even the government has, started talking about Atmanirbharta. If you know what I'm trying to mean. Okay, so this is what it is. Now, these are some of the developments. We know for last 7-8 years, particularly the IT was working remotely. They would assist people across the world through the network, and then we had the BPOs, etc. Now that has transferred into what is known as the work from home. Now this should have happened much earlier, maybe, but maybe there was a little bit of suspicion that if we allow our employees to work from home, they would be bunking. However, thanks to COVID, employers have realized, no, the work happens. People are interested in working. I think there is some kind of theory in management called X theory and a Y theory. I won't go into that. But what has that done? Now, that has really meant that large corporates do not need to have very large office spaces now to accommodate many of the things. So that's one unlocking of the capital. Secondly, the maintenance. If you go to a large organization and the AC isn't working, there's a peon also who shouts, "Dimag kharab ho gaya yaar, kya company hai ye?" So no maintenance. None of those things. So that has brought down obviously the electricity bill will come down, etc., etc. So that is the gain that the corporate will look at. They will, of course, be devising, which I'll come to later, methods of rewarding people and giving something similar in terms of earnings. Okay. On the employee side, he's freer. And what is his gain? So his gain is that first he can work from home and he can work in his own time. Secondly, there is a concept called moonlighting. It is probably possible for him to do 2 jobs at a time, which in troubled times like now, and like Amit said, 2 years at least, an additional income is going to be welcome. Now, this was the basis, the emerging technologies were the basis for such a kind of a changeover. So these are the developments that we have seen already. And it is my guess that it is going to only increase. So the whole world is a very, very, very new kind of a world. First, this is a saying. First, it was my name. Then it was my surname and address. Now, then it was my word, my reputation. Now all that is a piece of paper. Now it is a matter of identity that we can bring about. So it's completely up to us. So working for somebody, you don't do it. You know that old favorite quote, which even Dhirubhai Ambani used to use, that if you don't translate your dreams, somebody else will hire you to translate his. So that's what is coming. So it is completely up to us now as to do we want to just plainly survive or we want to thrive. So what does that mean? Really, what does it mean? It means that we need to get into what is known as a gig economy. Gig economy is where employers will give you contracts for the same jobs. Maybe a job of, let's say, a HR manager. They would just outsource the work and they would put parameters which will give him the same package on performance metrics. Now, this is not that it was not happening. It was already happening. Now it's going to increase. Now, in this case, a gigapreneur, as I would like to call it, is automatically an entrepreneur who must know the tricks of the trade or have the skills of entrepreneurship. Is going to be gig economy hitherto. The world has changed and we better accept it. Like they say, we need to learn to live with Corona. So this is the situation as it is. In fact, it is a 2018 statistics. And look at where India is in terms of earnings of gig work. Okay. And gig work can be very small, could be very, very large as well. I mean, let's say a lawyer like Harish Salve is a gig worker. He's a gig worker. The maid who comes to your place is a gig worker. So see the range. And it is up to an entrepreneur to discover a pain point, like Amit was saying, and hit at that and become very good at that. Here are the statistics. Look at the way even professional services have grown. Look at the way large corporates, they're all getting into a situation where they are better, they are happier with the gig kind of an arrangement. Okay. And this is a very interesting survey. Boomer generation, maybe mine or maybe a little after me, the Generation X, but millennials are more interested in working independently, in working on their own, in working in a contractual situation. This is a survey which is interesting and is going to be the acceptable norm. And the corporates, the large MNCs are now sensing this and going to offer. You have heard that Tata, Tata's, many of their companies are saying that for next 1 year, you'll work from home. This is the time when they will be drawing up their metrics for performance. And then what I just told you would be the package that they will be offering. Most of the ITs have done it. Many of the other manufacturing companies are looking at it very, actively. I can tell you for a fact that Tata Motors and Bajaj are very actively looking at this. And this is mainly because the millennials are more interested in that. Why? Because the attention span, the kind of, they can tend to get bored easily. And therefore, they would like to have multiple assignments so they can work, keep changing from time to time and without risking their earnings. So this is what it is. First, the job market is in a limbo, which we all know, and it is likely to be so, just like Amit said that up to 2022, growth statistics, etc., keep coming. We don't know how far it is or how far it is true or not true. So you can find, so therefore the gig will help you find so many things which you can do. Any entrepreneurial effort springs from within. Okay, it is not that you see an opportunity outside. It is the first pain that you feel in your heart. Okay, and then you go and cross-verify if there is a minimum number of people who are feeling the same pain. And like I said, Maslow's theory that you received like an iPhone 11. Somebody asked the question that iPhone 12 is the same and all that, but the subtlety of that insight for them to develop an i12 is what makes all the difference. That's the human wanting. So if within yourself you feel a pain, it is from the existing system or existing availability of goods and services that you have, that you feel you wish this was. For example, I'll tell you, you call a call center in a bank. How do you feel when for 10 minutes they say your call is precious to us? So if there was some way to solve it, that's a pain point all of us have. If there was some way to solve it, the technology is there, or I don't know if it is there or not, but if there's some way to solve it and we got our answers quicker, it would help. I'm going to take you a little backwards. One of the things you must have seen on the TV, tarararara free, pizza I free, when if I don't deliver in 20 minutes, they were attacking the basic need of hunger. Okay, so this identification was something which was felt by the domino people first themselves, and then they verified that as an insight. I've already talked about employers now becoming comfortable with work culture. Their faith in their employees has grown up, as reflected at least from my study or my interactions with senior business leaders here in Pune. And you can base yourself and your income expectations. So what you actually do is create your own world. So these are the top 10 skills according to World Economic Forum. I don't need to solve. So complex problem solving is an issue. Now, firstly, discovery of a problem is the most important thing. So that has not changed in the last 5 years, and this is going to continue. Critically thinking through the problem, creativity, people management, all this is what is a making of an entrepreneur. He need not necessarily be an employee. Even if he's an employee and if he has all these top 10 skills that are required, he is to be classified as an entrepreneur. And so as a gig employer, you are an entrepreneur, which is somebody who is willing to challenge an MNC. An e-preneur who trades, even Facebook and every other social media is now performing, allowing you, selling your goods. A freepreneur where you don't use many of your things, but you mix and match without you are an infopreneur where you provide information. You are a localpreneur, which is like a mom and pop store, but with a difference. Okay, you are a minipreneur where your investment is very small and you are doing more, maybe 2 or 3 jobs. This is an important aspect that is going to probably come. Solopreneur, of course, is when you're doing it alone. And now for the youngsters, many students have asked me, which is the right time to start? Do we earn for a few years, collect the capital and then start? There is no wrong or right time to start. However, there is only one thing. Once you start working, you start getting a salary and you start getting a perk, and there is a certain kind of security. The moment you jump back, and therefore you start getting used to it, again, the Maslow's thing. So to jump back into entrepreneurship is that much more difficult. Because you are used to sitting in an AC office, or you're used to getting paid for your transportation. you're used to so many things, okay, which as an entrepreneur, you will have to struggle and fight for it. So the right time, according to me, to start is as a student-preneur. Okay, start small. Start with something which you can help out and contribute to the society. Okay. Try and discover what pains you, or what pains your parents, or what pains your grandparent. Can you do something about it? And can you, over time, monetize it? Most of these companies, take Facebook, take YouTube. Facebook started as Mark Zuckerberg and his friends discussing girls in their college. YouTube started as a way to introduce dating couples. Okay, but look at where they have gone. So there was a certain pain point that, okay, I can't meet somebody, but we can kind of introduce ourselves, or let's discuss and then see how we can approach a boy or a girl. Now look at the size of these businesses. Okay, so it is at the student stage where you are full of enthusiasm. It is at the student stage where you can rough it out better. Okay, then at a stage when you reach my stage, when roughing out is that much more difficult. So while you can start it at any point in your time, but as a student-preneur, it's easier. Now, these are the few things, according to me, that is required. Empathy, with technology taking over, as was told by Nayan and also Mr. Nimbalkar and Amit, technology is taking over. So many of the routine things will get done. That means what is going to be left for us human beings? It's empathy. So any business which has a fair amount of, or any job which has a fair amount of empathy requirement will stay. The rest will disappear. For example, maybe 10 years or maybe 15 years ago, I used to have a secretary and I would give a dictation. She would take it and then type it and bring it to me. Over a period of time, that position is over. Similarly, we used to have a telephone operator in just about every office. Today, do we have that? So jobs which are going to be more and more routine, or more and more, which does not require empathy or intelligent handling, okay, or not even intelligent, I mean, when not to be confused with artificial intelligence, but the human element of intelligence, which is empathy, will not remain, and such businesses also will not survive. So a feeling yourself and addressing a pain point is important. Okay, willing to contribute. Now, when you've felt a pain point, all of us can have our different pain points. Will that pain point, solving that pain point, finding a solution, contribute to bettering the standards of living or whatever in the society? And then your own persistence. You won't, like Amit rightly said, that on day one, you may not, you might get rejected. Rejection handling is a very important thing, both in entrepreneurship as well as in jobs. Not everything happens just the way you want it. That's not how the world works. And so this is something which I say, that it is important to dream, because dreams lead to ideas lead to thoughts lead to action lead to achievement, and achievement leads to success. And entrepreneurship is about creating a life of my dreams. Gig entrepreneurship is about that. And that is the starting point of any kind of success. So don't be afraid to dream, but then the dream should be so much that it doesn't, make you go to sleep all the time. It must make you restless. It must make you not to be able to sleep, because you're going to contribute something. So success, according to me, is defined as a state of mind where one does what one wants. Okay, I do the way I want to do it, not because I'm ordered to do it, I'm guided to do it. Okay. This does not mean that I feel like going and slapping anybody. You know, I mean, I want to work at my time, and in the start, maybe 16, 17, 18 hours a day. But then at one particular time, I will do it my way. Okay. So I encourage every youngster today to be an entrepreneur and create your own world. I can be reached on this email ID and this number. That's about all that I have. So if there are any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Professor Nankiolier, for sharing your views on gig entrepreneurship and bringing it to the conversation today and giving us new hope of better business world post-COVID. Thank you very much. So we look forward to many more such inspirational and meaningful talks in near future. So now I would like to have a closing statement from all of you on how different do you think will be the new business world from the current scenario. So first, I would like to go to Nan. Nan, can you have?
Nan?
Yeah. Vanda, can I request you to start with somebody else? I'll just join.
Sure. So can I start with Amit? Would like to share your views.
I think I'll let Prakash take the question first. He has been silent for a while.
Great.
Engrossed with Dr. Dilip and his thoughts. Was very, very enriching, sir. I must say thank you. It was a pleasure listening to you. Hopefully I get many more opportunities to listen to your thoughts. That's one thing.
That will depend on Michael and Vandana.
No, otherwise also I'll try and connect with you, sir. Nothing to. We are already connected on LinkedIn. Okay. So
yeah.
Okay. My closing remark will be that go out as I take one cue from what Amit says is that find out that value that you will be able to find out that need and the value for being an entrepreneur or a customer's requirement. If you find it, I can quote many examples. There's one example which always I quote when I talk to entrepreneurs. And new thing is that I don't know, there's one brand which is there in South. I'm sure it is there, reach across India. It's called ID, the Idli Dosa, batter which is there. That is one thing which 4 or 5 years back, this gentleman, it started from a house in Koramangala and started preparing that and going to supermarkets, small shops and give them that this thing. They said that I will try to sell. If it does not sell, you have to take it back because you can't keep it beyond overnight. Okay, but with that struggle, he started on cycle. He used to go and deliver that to shops and persuade them to sell. And then today, look at where is PC Mustafa, the ID, the Idli Dosa. Look at where that was a need. It was for a kind of category of called DINK family. We call it a DINK or DISC family, double income, no child, or double income, single child. Both husband and wife are working. They are not living with the parents. They are in some other city. Parents are some other city. They both work and come back. They want to eat that idli and dosa, but they don't have time to prepare that batter. So that is where that was the need, which came and catapulted a brand like ID to today, a massive brand which is there. What is a share riding? What is an Ola Uber doing? Again, there's a need. Nobody wants to haggle with an auto rickshaw or a taxi for the meter or other thing. That's where they came. That's where the big basket came. That is where most of these most of these new age startups have come in. So go out, let your brain go on a wild goose chase, find out a particular need, a particular requirement of a customer which you can satisfy. Go out and do that. And as again, I take the example of Amit is that you will have to hear 500 times no before you get that check, from there. And that too, yesterday I was reading another article which says that if you're raised 600 million and then you value yourself as a unicorn, it's not a great thing. Whereas there are startups which have raised only 200 million, but then they have become unicorn. That's what the value creation. You raised only 200 million, but you value today as 1 million unicorn. That's actually that you added a wealth to your investor and created a value out of your entrepreneur. And go out there and digital marketing and all the various tools and measuring tools, analytic tools are available for AI and ML are there for you to utilize. The world is totally different.
Superb.
That's my
Right.
concluding remark.
Thank you. So Amit,
Yeah, right, right.
can I
No,
have
I
your remarks?
absolutely agree with Prakash, and of course, Professor Dilip. His views were engrossing and insightful at the same time. Uh, as Prakash said, add value. An example comes to me, Prakash, is Zoho. I'm sure you've heard the story of how they did not go after venture capitalist money and created a homegrown brand, which is global at this point, right? Uh, there was no pandemic at that time. They could have raised money. They could have gone all out aggressive in terms of marketing. So again, I'll come back to my, my statements of wait it out, as Professor Dilip said. The right time will come. It's very important to build something sustainable at this point. Don't get swayed away by these big unicorns, or even we have decacons and so forth at this point, even in our ecosystem. And another point I'll take is from a question by Sehaj again, where he asks, can you suggest some ways where I don't fall into the trap of working for someone and want to be an entrepreneur? So I don't think there is any harm in working for someone also. You don't have to be an entrepreneur just for the heck of it and thinking that working for somebody is a bad idea, whether early or in the middle or late stages of your career. The idea is for you to have passion and vision in whatever you're doing, whatever capacity you're doing. Identify that vision. You can carve your own niche, your own name, wherever you are. I, as an individual, even after 23 years, still put in 18 to 20 hours every day. Not because somebody forces me to do it, not because somebody tells me to do it. It is because I enjoy what I do. I have a passion for whatever I take up in life. A lot of people wonder, and my juniors ask me, sir, why do you put in 20 hours? Even now, I'm almost in a middle age kind of a scenario. I said, well, because I enjoy doing it. What else would I do? So Sehaj, I think it is more pertinent in today's time, amalgamating the views of Prakash and, of course, Professor Dilip. Create that own value. It could be you becoming a gigapreneur, as he said, which is a mixture of working for somebody but still being a freelancer, right? You could still be servicing X number of clients. And it is more pertinent now to create that extra revenue stream. You could still be doing a 9 to 6, 9 to 5 job, but also doing a side hustle, right? If you are a student at this point, as you write, uh, there is no harm in exploring those routes, especially now with, and actually, I mean, coming back to what I said earlier, we have only hit the tip of the iceberg in terms of the impact of COVID. We have only been talking about the social impact, the psychological impact. The economic impact, for some reason, is always going to be hidden, be it by politicians, be it by industry leaders. 12 months down the line, it's all out going to be in the open, right? Where there'll be a lot of mayhem, haphazardness. So it's better to be prepared for all of those things, taking Professor Dilip's view. Have that second side hustle. You don't know when that second one becomes your primary one. So that's it. Thank you, Vandanas. Thank you, team
Absolutely.
DueDash.
You're welcome. So now I would like to go to Nan for his statement, closing statement. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Anna. So yeah, so we all know that digital transformation has been happening and it was to happen. Only thing is, I think this COVID has only accelerated the whole process, and now things are going to move very fast as far as digitalization is concerned. It's already happening. Uh, and of course jobs will be lost. They are already lost, and like Dilip mentioned, gigapreneur, it's going to happen. It's already happening. Only thing is, I think I would put a little different. It's not freelancing. Companies are still engaging employees, but not on a payroll because they don't want a liability. But they continue to work like an employee, but they're not on a roll. So there's a fixed amount being given to them. There's a fixed set of work being decided between them. This is what you deliver. This is what they'll get against that delivery. But they cannot do anything else. Okay, though they are like somewhere in between. It's not completely freelancing, but I can do 10 projects together. So that's the difference. And I think that is going to come on project-based assignments and project. So companies don't want to take liability anymore, and they don't want the pay salary or whatever. One thing which is as we get into digitalization, running or working ethically and honesty is now becoming very poor. It's paying back. Okay, gone are those days where you could cheat customer or you could cheat your vendors or you could cheat your partners. I think that's going to go away. And the more honest, the more ethics you have, the more transparent you are. The customer would want to know that because in today's world, you are exposed and everything is tracked and your data is available. So you cannot do anything wrong with the customer. So no shortcuts. You got to deliver, promise less and deliver more. What we learn in marketing is something which its time has come. And finally, one thing which I want to say is, uh, I've been reading and I've been seeing that loneliness will grow, and I see as a big opportunity as a business. As people are getting, I mean, the digitalization, what happen is that people have become isolated. The next generation, especially, their friends are online. They play games online. They do their education online. They are and this is the generation which is going to getting isolated, and the loneliness is setting in. And I see, I mean, for all the founders and entrepreneurs here, huge opportunity there. If you can work something on a space of helping the next generation to come out of this loneliness. Okay, while it's going to be another epidemic. And just to give you a little idea, UK is a country which has got a ministry for loneliness. I mean, that's the kind of they have a dedicated minister for loneliness. So that shows where we are reaching. And this is what's going to happen. I think we are going to all get isolated. That social fabric, on one side, we are saying that we are socially connected, but on personal basis, we are not connected. It's all outer facade that we are exposing ourselves to the world out there. And heart in heart, we are still unhappy. And I think that's, I see as a huge business opportunity for all the entrepreneurs who are here. If you're looking for next big thing, look into something if you can solve the loneliness problem.
Thank you, Nayan, for your closing statement.
Thank you.
Now, Professor Nankiolia, your closing remarks, please.
Okay, I think these three experts are too good. I'll just borrow from them and build on it. First, all of them have talked about value, and often youngsters and often many of us confuse it with price. I would just like to give that subtle difference. I'll give you an example. When I just began my career as a salesman selling tires in a company called Seat, they had these large, tires called off-the-road tire for off-the-road vehicles. Those 10 feet, 15 feet tall tires, huge tires. Okay. And there were two major competitors. I'm trying to tell a story. I hope you all have the time. They had, the same tires, and they were better established already. And they were producing a product which was considered worldwide the latest of the latest. Whereas what Seat had wasn't the latest. It may be about 10, 15 years behind time in technology. So, being a salesperson, like Amit just said, I was to chase a target, and I needed to get to some place to show my face honorably to my boss and to his boss and to his boss. So I went to, there is a company called Century Cements. They have a cement plant in a place called Tilda, which is near Raipur. And the mining manager there was one Mr. Rao. Okay, now of course I don't know. I've lost touch with him, but he's somebody who taught me a few things without telling me. So you've heard the story of Eklavya. I can give my thumb to Mr. Rao. So I went to him, and with all my fancy sales pitch, etc., those were not the days of what Prakash would say or what Nayan would say. Those were the days we had to do things, face to face and manually so. So I created a lot of picture kind of a thing and showed him on that. this is my product, that is my product. And all of a sudden, I found that he was not listening to this, nor was he looking at my scrapbook. He was looking at me with a very disappointed, angry kind of an expression. So I said, "What happened, sir?" I thought maybe he had some personal problem, maybe a fight at home. Wives can be difficult, at times. But it was not that. He said, "Do you know, Dilip, that man has reached moon?" I was completely nonplussed. I said, what does this mean? I'm trying to sell this old man my tires and he's taking me to the moon. I said, "Yes, sir, but can we get back to this?" "No, no, I'm on this topic only." So I said, "Okay, how? Do you know they have these tubeless tires and they are, all sorts of things." So I said, "Yes, sir, but my this thing, my that thing, my after service, my all those things," I said. He said, "No. Why shouldn't I use the latest of the latest?" And I said, "Sir, you have to buy at least a few." So he said, "Look, you have your coffee and get out." Somehow, I was young, maybe about 23, 24-year-old. "Mr. Rao, I will make sure," this is how, I don't know, it just came out of an emotional outburst. "I'll make sure that you will buy tires," as if I'm some kind of a dada. He said, "Get out." However, when I came back, I reviewed, what can I do now? If this is the case here in this particular cement factory, and there are cement factories all around Chhattisgarh, how do I sell? So I started looking at, and I every month I would sit outside. He was not allowed to go into his office, and then started visiting his mines. And I realized these tubeless tires, which were 1.5 times as expensive as mine, were, because of the underfoot conditions, would get cut and thrown. Okay, and maybe they've just had about been used only 25% of their lives. So that was my entry point. I went back to him. I said, "See, when a tubeless tire is cut, the way it is cut, you can't even put a tube inside to use it because the tube will get pinched by the cut. However, if you use my tube type tire, you can even put a gator and get a greater use of your tires, and therefore you can bring down your, the loss of expenditure, or bring down the tire costs." This hit, and he said, "Okay, if I give you, what will you do?" Now there was one more difficulty. Anyway, but we'll come to that some other time. So I could see and show him the value versus the price. Okay, the value was that the underfoot conditions for cement mines in India did not merit high tech. Okay. So that versus the price. Okay, so that is one. The other one was some people asked questions, I don't know who all, and everybody talked about discovering the pain points. Well, like I said, every pain point was first begin from within yourself, and that should become your passion. Amit just said that working 20 hours a day, he doesn't mind it. He doesn't. In fact, it may be relaxing him. Amit, please tell me if I'm right.
No, absolutely. Because for me, there are no boundaries between work and non-work. Right?
Exactly. So that is what will make you discover the new things that Prakash and Nain had talked about. Because if there is a passion, then you will find a way. This is not such a scary world. COVID is dangerous. There will be lockdown. If the district magistrate in your district doesn't get his, idlis right, okay, or his wife has fired him, he'll, declare a lockdown. And the other day when his girlfriend said hello, he'll say, okay, lift the lockdown. This will happen now. And let's learn how to live with it. Sure. Okay. So if that is the thing, then your passion is the one that is going to carry you through, and the world is still going to survive, and we will be required. Okay.
Right.
That's what is my a note.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure having you giving talks on the current issues and hearing your expert talks. And thank you all speakers for sharing your expertise and adding value to our session. And thank you very much, audience, for attending today's event. You've been wonderful. So I think we are coming closing to our session. So if anybody has any questions, they
somebody
can.
has just asked a question. Somebody named Riddhish, I believe.
Okay, so yes. So there is a question from Riddhish. He's asking, what is the importance of building relationship with your clients in a B2B considering the current situation? So I would like to ask this question.
Can I take this question?
Sure, sir. Sure. I was about to do it, but I'll elaborate on what you said.
Yeah. See, like Nayan just said, that ultimately we are human beings and we are gregarious animal. And now the major problem facing us is loneliness. All right. Similarly, even in a B2B situation, many times it is the personal interaction or the personal touch which gets you the business. If there are, I think Tarun was there, he's from Calcutta, if I know well. If you know the culture there, the business really doesn't get transacted in the office. It gets transacted in clubs, it gets transacted in golf courses, it gets transacted in restaurant. Why this? In Dubai, we have the Indian club, Indian Sports Club. They have two very, very large restaurants. And if you walk across, you'll see $1 million deals being finalized. Office is just where you sign.
Exactly.
Okay. So B2B business or even B2C, it's always about relationship. And that's your touch point as a salesperson, as a marketing person. Because sales, marketing, etc., ultimately is engineering the human perception and making it affection.
Absolutely, sir.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you wanted to elaborate on it, Amit.
I mean,
like
of course, I wouldn't dare to elaborate, but maybe the wrong word I used. Just add to it that I'm absolutely in sync what Professor Sir said. I learned it almost 25 years ago when I was 18, engaging with a kind of a billionaire businessman who was on his first visit to Asia, not only India. And he told me, Amit, business is all about people. And I said, I agree. He said, let me finish. So he went on to add, business is all about people and the relationships between them. I have employed and deployed that strategy for the last 25 years in whatever I do. Again, as Professor Sir said, B2B or B2C, because, and now even more relevant, if you try to make it only transactional, somebody has just asked a question on ROI. That is where that point comes in. If you make it only transactional and not relationship-based selling, your ROI is very less, right? If you make it relationship-based, your customer acquisition cost, when it is converted into an ROI, can be taken forward, right? And also coming to Sehed's question, that is why you need to have a vision. Today, you could be working for X company, tomorrow Y company, and ultimately be an entrepreneur. It is so important to carry forward those relationships, which you can only do when you had started with forming them while selling or pitching, rather than keeping it transactional. I mean, some businesses require to be transactional, a credit card or maybe a mobile phone. But even then, we have the example of Apple, where they compel you to buy the next one, which looks exactly the same, right? Because they went with their relationship-based selling. So, Riddhish, I hope this answers.
I just want to
add. Just to add, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Nayan, go ahead.
So just quickly one line. So adding to what Mr. Dilip and Amit said. So when a startup starts a business, when they start a new venture, I always ensure that entrepreneur founder, I tell them, you should have at least 100 numbers in your phone book of the business that you're going to get into. If you're starting a food business, You should know 100 people in that ecosystem. So businesses, relationship is very important.
Great. So Prakash, you wanted to add something?
Yeah. I just want to say that, the relationship building is so important, which is, traditionally, I'm sure right from Dr. Dilip's time, you have been building your customer as you are selling tires and you graduated to other products. Even I have been doing that. Even I'm still in touch with some of my old customer back there in those days. But today, there is something called, I'm sure Amit will agree with me, that some of these venture fund experts, the angel investors, so-called, they when you pitch them for the funding, they ask one question. They want one particular data which says that how many of your customers are repeat customers. Because that one analysis, that one data is very, very required, because everybody knows that acquiring any new customer is an additional cost that you do, and retaining an old customer is very much important, especially the entire thing. If you have an e-commerce site, the data, the analytics of, repeat customers who come back again and again to buy, very, very crucial. You should have at least 40 to 60% of your customers who are repeat customers. That will add value to your pitch when you're going to an investor. And
so I'll add just one more thing. For a young startup or just to start up, one of the most important thing that they should kind of budget is about 10%. I mean, I've been telling all my students, so I'm trying to repeat it here. 10% of their time, at least, which can be clubbed together, and about 10% of whatever they earn or whatever capital they have, just for networking. Okay. Absolutely. And out of that, only 1% will actually translate into that ROI. But my God, that will be the ROI. That's what, and I'm sure Amit, with the kind of hustling that he's talking about, will completely bear me out. I'm sure of that.
Absolutely. I operate on that whole model since, again, last 25 years, despite my age, I still believe in the hardcore traditional approach to selling and marketing. Yes, we have all those tools that Nayan and Prakash spoke about, which are absolutely relevant and pertinent. But the basis for using those tools, again, is the traditional approach. So Nayan, I mean, if you have to use digital marketing and all the analytics that are available, it is still important to filter that audience first with your mindset, right? Only then can you target that audience. So I draw analogies from what I used to do on the road 25 years ago, where you need to identify that audience. So I couldn't agree more with the professor on the power of networking. I mean, I've worked across industries where I have seen that in action. I think my last and closing point would be, don't have any, pay less importance to what fruits you are going to get from your efforts. If you believe in that, you can concentrate more on the effort. Now, if you try to pitch to a customer thinking I'm going to get $100,000 out of this deal, your mind is always going to be on those $100,000 rather than not on your effort and what solution you are providing. So if you employ this strategy that I have to focus on my customer, not on the final outcome. Of course, everybody wants to make a sale, right? Which will happen. And then the network effect starts happening, if you have repeat customers, which is more important.
I think let me just summarize this in one line.
This same CEAT example, it was the same Mr. Rao who, they have a small association, cement manufacturers. He gave me the referrals. He pushed the case for me. I didn't work. And, you can check it with CEAT tires. My achievement versus the target was exact 1000%. What the target, and that was not set by me, that was set by the bosses. That is the power of networking. And then how often, and it doesn't happen in the office. It happens all over.
Right.
So let me just summarize this by saying network is a net worth.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing your expert views, your insights, and adding value to this session. I look forward to many more such inspirational and meaningful talks in the near future. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful session with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
I
you.
hope you
Thank
all
you.
enjoyed.
Thank you,
Oh, yeah.
Amit. Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Dr. Dilip, for your
Thank you.
thoughts.
Thank
It was
you.
great learning. And thank